Number 16.
Senator Burey.
Merci. Honorables collègues, je me lève aujourd'hui pour prendre la parole à propos de l'interpellation numéro 16 proposée pour le sénateur Black afin d'attirer l'attention du Sénat sur les préoccupations qui continuent de susciter la réaffectation des terres agricoles, des terres humides et des terres forestières du Canada, ainsi que la possible insécurité alimentaire, économique et sociale découlant de la capacité de production réduite des produits agricoles, des pâturages, des produits forestiers et d'aliments tant à l'échelle nationale qu'internationale. Today, I plan to speak about this issue of land use and food security as it relates to this proposed inquiry from the perspectives of a senator who has just had her first anniversary of appointment to this chamber, a pediatrician, a mother and grandmother concerned about climate change, health, and food security. In speaking about this, my goal is to encourage you, honourable colleagues, after debate, to vote for this inquiry to move to the committee stage for further investigation. As a legislator, I'm becoming keenly aware of the divisions of rights and responsibilities and powers or authorities between provinces and territories, First Nations, Innu, Métis, and the federal government. Some of you may wonder why a pediatrician was so keenly interested in food security when I came to the Senate. As with all the insights that I gained over my career, it came from listening deeply to my patients and their families and learning from their struggles. It came from connecting the dots between poor health and school performance, academic, behavioral, and emotional problems that forced me to dig deeper and discover that many of these families were struggling or had struggled with providing enough nutritious and healthy food necessary for a healthy life. And so I decided when I came to the Senate, or at least it seemed so at the time, to focus on food security. On reflection, however, all those encounters with my patients had charted a course for my life that would unfold in due course. During the Standing Committee of Agriculture and Forestry soil study, we heard that from many witnesses of the need for a national strategy on soil health. So although land use for the most part falls squarely under provincial and territorial jurisdiction, we are all becoming keenly aware that a national strategy can foster the development of cohesive policies, support best practices, and knowledge exchange across jurisdictions. It is also very clear that across Canada, to quote Senator Duncan, one size does not fit all, and that is the beauty of Canada. This diversity across all spheres that I say and feel is our superpower as a nation. Agricultural land is a limited resource in Canada. Less than 7% of the country's land mass is suitable for agriculture. The Organization for Economic Development reports that Canada's agricultural land totaled 68.1 million hectares in 2018, placing the country in the 13th position in global ranking. All of this to say that Canada plays a vital role in global food production and food security. Across Canada, there are 189,874 farms. Average farm size almost doubled over the last 50 years due to consolidation and technological advances. Although farm market receipts, which represent farmers' revenues from the sale of agricultural commodities in 2022, reached a record high with 5.6% average annual growth between 2012 and 2022, and this is important, the largest 10% of farms generate more than 2/3 of all revenues. This needs to be underscored. Furthermore, a recent PBO report in June 2023 shows that half of all farms are reported to be losing money or just barely making it. These and other factors make it a national imperative to further understand Canadian agricultural and forest land reallotments. Following Canada's ratification of the Paris Agreement in October 2016, which I agree with and wholeheartedly support, a comprehensive plan known as the Pan-Canadian Framework on Clean Growth and Climate Change was adopted to reduce emissions across all sectors in Canada, including agriculture. The PCF identified 4 agricultural-related actions: enhancing carbon storage in forests and agricultural lands, supporting the increase of wood for construction, generating fuel from bioenergy and bioproducts, and advancing innovation, including clean technologies, to reduce emissions from agriculture. This underscores why this inquiry into land use reallotments is vitally important. According to a recent mini review, Lessons for Redefining Progress in Canadian Food System Policy by Robert and Mullenix, agricultural intensification for the purpose of meeting increasing export demands has degraded Canadian prairie ecosystems. This includes the near elimination of tall grass prairie ecosystems and includes the draining of approximately 70% of historic wetlands and the loss of biodiversity dependent on these ecosystems. Now to Ontario. Less than 5% of Ontario's land is suitable for growing food or raising livestock, with the best of it often located next to large cities. According to the Census of Agricultural Data, Ontario is losing more than 319 acres of arable land each day, which translates to nearly 1% loss of Ontario's farm acreage every year. Rigid zoning regulations and car-centric cities are a catalyst for urban centers sprawling into fertile agricultural land. Even as populations grow, urban areas are becoming less dense. This emphasizes the importance of protected agricultural land like Ontario's Greenbelt. Greenbelt farms, while covering just 7% of the province's farmland, grows 42% of its fruits and 7% of its vegetables acres, earning 47% more per acre than the rest of Ontario. We heard from many witnesses throughout our study on soil health, and some themes are clear. The proper planning of how we utilize our land is one of the most beneficial steps we can take to ensuring healthier soils. Farmers describe the struggles in acquiring their own land to cultivate. Candice Sundance from Sundance Commons put forward one land use policy that may be a useful tool to help foster proper land management and soil health. This is the formation of land trusts. Her organization was inspired by other models that offer farmers equity for land-based improvements. In her submission to the committee, she reports, a new type of farm is needed, one where supports is married to long-term equitable land access. This is paramount to make small-scale agriculture more accessible to changing demographics, many of which do not have inherited land or parental guidance on the farm business. Another young farmer, Dean Orr, wrote to the Peel Town Council on Urban Sprawl. He wrote about his grave concern for the current land use and ad hoc plan to promote food security. My career is one that allows me to have a frontline perspective on land use planning, as well as city and urban planning. Our family farm is in King City, where we grow mostly corn, soya beans, wheat, organic black and kidney beans for grain, and maple syrup. All of our land is rented. As you can imagine, that leaves us extremely vulnerable and acutely aware as to the decisions of land use planning, as well as decisions made by those that own the land, which in our case is mostly developers and speculators. He ends with this plea: we need to preserve our farmland for the food security of our current and future population. And I say, the pandemic magnified all of these issues and should not be lost on us. A recent CBC report noted that 1 in 10 people in Toronto use food banks. 1 in 5 children in Ontario experience some form of food insecurity, such as worrying about running out of food. Black and Indigenous populations, of course, as you know, experience disproportionate levels of food insecurity. One of the recommendations of Toronto Black Food Sovereignty Plan 2021, recommendation number 2, access to growing space, supports reimagining public land as an opportunity to advance an inclusive reparative economy approach to build increased community resilience and land-based learning and healing initiatives through identifying, returning, and repurposing land to promote Black environmental stewardship and urban agriculture initiatives. Equitable land access to land and GBA plus analysis of our agricultural land reallotment policies and processes need to be examined. The Canadian Land Inventory uses data from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. There is urgent need to have up-to-date data using the latest technologies and machine learning and make this available to diverse groups of Canadians in an equitable and accessible manner. Honourable colleagues, Canadian agricultural, wetland and forest land reallotments, as well as potential food, economic and social insecurities as a result of reduced capacity for farming, pasture, forestry and food production, both domestically and internationally, are vitally important to Canada. We need to know more about best practices in other countries, especially those that may be applicable to Canada in all of its diversity. We should also look to learn from Indigenous scientists, elders, and keepers of knowledge. Sustainability and the stewardship of Mother Earth are at the core of Indigenous farming and land use practices and cultural beliefs. It is my hope that this inquiry will help engage Canadians of all ages and raise awareness about the important issue of land use, which will deepen our understanding of its impacts on food security, climate change, health, and economic stability. This may be the most important issue of our time. Honourable colleagues, I urge you, after debate, to move this inquiry to the committee stage for further investigation, as we hold this land in trust for the next generations, our children and grandchildren. They are depending on us. Thank you.